Hello Reshifters. Here's how you can render Maya curves using Redshift. Now, we don't have a direct support for rendering curves in Maya yet. This will come later on. But for now, what you can do actually is kind of hack this curve into a hair system. And let me show you how you can do this. So what I have here, it's a curve. It's a Maya nerves curve, as you can see here. And what I'm going to do here is go to the hair and then assign new hair system. And as soon as you do that, the one thing happens. The original curve creates, it's kind of, if you want, turn into a follicle system. And as you can see here, you get an output curve and the original curve as a follicle. Okay? And if you're looking at the output curve, it doesn't quite follow your original curve, and that's because, well, the grief, it's a bit different. So let's put this in 3, and let's increase the sample density so it kind of matches the original curve. Okay? If you're trying to render this, you don't see any hair, no curves. And that's because, well, these are still curves. What we need to do is turn this into a hair system. Now, it's not just a hair system because you already have it, but it's a paint effects hair, because we don't support curves directly, but we do support paint effects hair, right? So if we're going to, let's see, assign paint effect brush to hair, okay, and this is renderable, not a problem at all. You can render this, but again, this is a hair system, it's not a curve yet. So we kind of, well, instead of having 10 hairs per clump, we're only gonna use 1. Okay, and of course you might want to play a bit with the values here, so this is following the actual curve thoroughly, right? So the next thing to do is to go to your Redshift section here and actually attach a hair shader to this hair system shape 1. Now, if you're selecting the paint effects here, okay, and you're assigning a Redshift hair, let's create a Redshift hair. And as you can see here, I don't have, well, I do have one, and that's great. Okay, so paint effects, assign material, blah blah blah, and there's no shader in it. And you start wondering what you did wrong. Well, you didn't do anything wrong. The thing is, this guy here, the paint effects, as you can see, it does have something attached to it, but it's not using the shader that's attached to the shape. It's using the shader that's attached to the hair system shape, which is here. So what you have to do is actually drag this on the hair system. Okay, and then you have a hair shader. Now, it doesn't have to be a hair shader. It can be, for instance, it can be just a Redshift material for it, right? So if we're going here and we're just putting a Redshift material, as you can see, bam, you have this as Redshift material as a shader, right? So as long as you have anything connected here, I just undo the Redshift material assignment and actually connection and creation. So we're still back to the RS hair. Okay, so this is how it actually works now. Of course, this looks a bit odd because, well, it's not kind of uniform, and you have to understand that for the moment, what we do support in hair, in Maya, for instance, we support a ribbon mode. Okay, so this will act like a, if you want, like a flat piece of surface with a bit of fake bump if you want, but it's not a cylinder, right? As you can see here, I can get closer. And by the way, if this feels a bit segmented, of course you can try to increase the sub segments and everything, But let's not do that, because subsegment means computational, right? So you don't want that. What you want to do instead is actually go for the render globals. Let's switch to Redshift, and here we have hair tessellation, right? So let's go for 4 steps tessellation with no increase in computational time for simulation. Now, please remember, this is still a simulation, right? And just to show you that, I'm gonna, well, by the way, I've animated the curve a bit, so it goes like this, right? So, but you will notice that this is a simulation and the hair just falls down. Now, you don't want that, right? And there is not much you can do here in terms of dynamics. I mean, you can, of course, try to play with stretch resistance, compression, bend, twist, and so on, but frankly, you don't want that. Just simply ignore the dynamics properties on the hair system and go for the follicle, okay? Now, the follicle here has a simulation method which is set to dynamic. When this is set to dynamic, then the parameters of the PFX hair dynamics system will come into play. But if we set this to static, for instance, there will be no dynamic simulation, but it won't follow your curve, as you can see here. You have to set it to passive. So when you're setting this to passive, this follows your curve. Okay, and let me just show you this. Press F here. Well, maybe that's not the ideal shader for this. Let's see. Let me just make this kind of darker. And I don't want any reflection or any specular if you want. And let's make this, I don't know, something like that. Okay, so now when you're actually animating your curve, as you can see here, the render follows, right? So you don't have to do pretty much anything about it. It just goes with the flow and with the animation. As I said, you might, if you want to be really precise about it, you might want to play with the paint effects here, clump width, so it really sticks to the actual follicle. But that's about it. I mean, okay, besides that, you can play with the hair width, and let me just show you the hair width here. Okay, so hair width is 0.01 and we make it bigger. And the thing is, as I said earlier, this is a ribbon mode, right? So it will kind of like imagine like a flat band pointing towards the camera. So yes, it won't give you any kind of shading like a cylinder. That will come later on, as I said. Okay, but for now, this is how you can actually render Maya curves using Redshift. As always, if you have any questions, just post them on our forum and we'll try to help you out as much as we can. Happy Redshifting, guys.